Airsoft gun how-to. What is up, you zesty YouTube mother huggers? Today I'm going to show you how to turn your CYMA Airsoft AK-47 into the stylish and oh so perfect version of the classic Modern Warfare 2 AK-47. Now, before we get into the gunsmithing of the Airsoft variety, perhaps you take interest in the real steel variety of gunsmithing and weapons technology. Well, if that happens to be the case, then you need to stop by SDI.edu. The Sonoran Desert Institute has been a sponsor, the main sponsor of the channel for a long time now, and so of course, we here at Brandon Herrera like to send them the love that they deserve. Now, they sponsor Brandon's channel, not mine. Let me be clear. This is a bit. This is a bit. Although if they want to sponsor me, or text, or email, you know, any of those work. And you can find the links in the description and the pinned comment below, as always. And once again, thank you to SDI for sponsoring the channel, Brandon's channel. And with that said, let's do some gunsmithing. So this is pretty much what your AK is going to look like if you get the exact same CYMA AK-47, cheap AK-47 that I got. There is a good couple of differences, even in putting all the old parts back on, just to give you a demonstration. Obviously the sight, number one, in the magazine. I couldn't find my high cap black magazine, and I painted the sight, spray painted it. It's the same one, but yeah, I spray painted that sight black because orange tips suck. And the last big difference, which will not come on the gun at all, is this optic side rail mount. This will be the hardest part of the entire build. If you don't get yourself a CYMA AK that has this already put on here, you have to install that mug yourself, which means risking drilling holes that you could potentially screw up if you're not careful with how you drill, where you drill, and how you put the screws in. You run the risk of, well, especially with plastic, because this is a plastic receiver, stripping it, thus for it just being a hole where the screw ain't really gonna stick in there. And I could take this off to demonstrate it, but I'm not going to, because after I put this on, I'm leaving it alone. And the only thing I've ever done was tighten these screws if they ever got loose, which generally is this front one. But that's all thanks to the little hole right here, which you may not can see, but it is in the mag well. Some of these parts did require some fitting or changing or using a Dremel to shave off some parts in order for them to fit. Luckily, nothing like that is too complicated. So here's pretty much everything you're gonna need, including this little bad boy right here, which is pretty easy and self-explanatory to put on. All right, so let's move all that aside and let's get to work. Now, starting off, you can complete most of the build by simply removing these three parts. They can be replaced by taking out simply 3 screws. We'll start with the grip. All you gotta take out is 1 screw. This bottom screw right here. There's my motor. This is not what originally comes with the gun. I'm just letting you know. I've definitely made some modifications to this gun. Take your new grip, slide that thing over the motor and over the wires. Try not to pinch them. And voila. It's not the most perfect fit, as you can see right here. That silver little hole that you see right there, that is where our screw has to go. You may have to get the Dremel after it. I know I did a little bit, but I should have probably gotten after it a little more, but I have to take my grip and force it backwards to get the screw properly in and not risk stripping the the metal part of the motor. I don't get it too tight because I still don't want to risk anything. I just get it where it is snug, it ain't gonna come off. So that's one screw out of the way. This next part, at the bottom of your sight, this screw right here. Your screw will not look like this. It will not be that long. I got this as a replacement. Either way, remove your, I don't remember what the proper thing for this is, what this is properly called, but whatever. Take out the final screw. Final screw being right here. Don't lose that. And just like that, you can slide your gas block forward, which then gives you access to the upper and lower handguard, which are simply just held in by tension from this gas block. So you'll take your lower handguard, you'll see a square hole right here, and you'll see a square nub on the back of your lower handguard. Mine did have fitting issues when I first did it, so this is why having a Dremel is important. I had to Dremel it down to where it would actually fit in that hole. And I believe, if you look at it, I Dremeled from the bottom up. From the bottom up, okay? So I didn't take off the top here. I did not take off the top of this nub. I took off from the bottom. That was the main problem. But now it fits like a glove, and boom. Same thing with the upper part of the handguard. It also had an issue of needing to get the Dremel after it. And that was right here, specifically on the back. You can tell the back, this is the back part because it's got this small hole here. Specifically right under here. It's hard to show an example because I don't have it, you know, what it looked like before. But I had to take the Dremel above this arch. There was something interrupting it to keep it from sitting into place on the AK right here. The one of the tension pieces that holds it in place. I don't know if they're actually called tension pieces. They probably aren't. That's just my lingo. After you have your stuff installed, you just pull back on them to kind of hold them in place, roughly, and then you pull your pieces back on, overlap the arches. The black arches will overlap the tan arches, and you'll take your small black screw that held in the gas block and screw that mug back in. And I wouldn't recommend screwing any of this too tight, because if you do, you risk stripping stuff. Airsoft stuff is not super quality. On airsoft stuff, you don't want to make something too tight. Snug is good enough. Too tight will generally strip. But also, while you're at it, you can go ahead and replace that front sight. This is obviously a different inner barrel. You'll have a brass one. Now we get to our front sight. I've already put on the muzzle brake, the muzzle breacher, I think is the proper term for this thing. You know, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Opposite of that, you literally, it's lefty-tighty, righty-loosey on generally a lot of threaded firearms, I think. Now my barrel tends to like to get in the way, so I do have to make the barrel go through it. Now this one I did have to get the Dremel after, because otherwise you'd pretty much have to press fit this if it was going to fit. I needed it to slip on and off, and it was not doing that. So I also had to get the Dremel for this front sight, and I just took, it's like a cylinder shaped sanding piece, and I just kept going on the inside, around, until finally it would slip over. And then you look for that hole. You can twist it until you twist the sight until you find the hole where your screw goes in. So now that you've found your hole, you can go ahead and take your little rod, slip that mug back through. I also had to Dremel this one too to be able to accommodate for the new screw and everything, and honestly it just fit better like that. When it comes to airsoft stuff, you kind of have to make your own modifications for some of this. It's kind of part of the deal. If you're going to be customizing stuff, you got to get used to that. There's also a hole right here that your little rod goes into. Found it, snug, not too tight. For the stock, no tools required. Take your old stock, and normally you'd press this way to extend it in and out, but instead you'll press the opposite way and assist it a little bit, or pull the opposite way, and boom, your stock should come right off. This right here is a commercial sized Voltor stock, not a mil-spec stock. If it's mil-spec, I'm not sure it'll fit because I'm not sure of this buffer tube. Same principle, but backwards. Get your buffer, or your stock on the buffer tube, pull up, and you are on the truck. Press the button here inwards, dust cover should come right off. And also just get a little bit of look of the internals here of this AK. If you're wondering about compatibility, if you have a different AK that's CYMA, I have what is called a front wired gearbox, which means the wire is coming through here. Grab your new ribbed AK-47 dust cover and pop that into place right there. Boom. Good to go. This piece right here is also sling mount that is found on the MW2 AK-47. At least there's one. It's different, but it's similar to it. Now it's time for the side rail mount. You can find a different one that is more accurate if you can find one. Ultimately, this thing's been a pain, but I get it to work. I'm also made a modification to it where, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I stuck something in here. If you'll notice how it's tilted, and I stuck it under this rail and then put the screws back on so it'd be level, because this cheap thing is not going to be level when you put it on your AK, most likely. So the principle to put these on is you take this little lever right here and you pull it back, okay? You slide it over and then put it back down to pinch it down, okay? That's after you've adjusted it, of course. Obviously, if this is your first time using it, most likely it is not going to fit properly. It'll just slide on and off real easy, so you'll have to adjust it from the bottom here as you go. There we go, we had some struggle, that's good. Now you pretty much have the MW2 AK. This is technically complete. There's a couple of inaccuracies that have not been changed. For example, the biggest one being the gas block being a 45 degree, not the 90 degree. But my AK is not complete without an ACOG sight. This isn't actually an ACOG verbatim, but it is ACOG-like, and that's what matters. Now, I didn't show you guys how to install the rail cover, rail guard, whatever these are called right here, that you put over rails and, you know, that make you feel comfortable. But you just slide it on, basically. It is stubborn though. This thing is stubborn in getting on, and in technicality, it's not the proper length, and the color is slightly off, but whatever. Man, isn't that beautiful? ADD break. So after carefully putting all these aesthetically sweet upgrades onto your AK, does it improve performance? But there's only one way to test that. Now, like any good video that is done by Brandon, we of course have to have ourselves a penetration test. But if you know me and my type of stuff, I'm very morally clean. I don't like alcohol. I don't drink it, and personally I'm just not a fan. There's only one reason I would buy alcohol, and that's to make flaming liquid. Molotovs. So you're asking yourself, Brandon, Ethan in this case, how in the world is this going to be a Brandon Herrera video if you're not shooting White Claw? Well, think about it like this. Claws have to come from something, right? Whether that be bears, dogs, cats, birds, the occasional wasp. But more specifically, when we think of claws, we think of monsters. I mean, look at it. You got 3 claw marks right here, and it's white. Perfect. And I don't drink these either, so this is probably going to hurt you more than it hurts me. Now, you may notice that this happens to be very stable footage right now, and that's because DeLance decided to take a break. He's sick. He's very sick. I actually don't know that, but I'm also not the real Brandon, so we're just going to pretend he's sick. Hoping that was funny in 3, 2, 1. That was a little low. So we can see here, the BB entered at the bottom. So we at least got a lot of blood out of our target. Dude, the BB's actually in there, I can hear it. So will it penetrate a white monster? Yes. Does it improve performance? No. Except maybe the one thing that would is the side rail mount, because then you can mount an optic on top. But besides that, no. Overall, I hope you've enjoyed this assembly how-to today, or whatever a proper title for that would be. And I will see you zesty YouTube mother huggers in the next one. Thanks. Two, one. Freaking empty.
I always forget the first shot is never comes out of this thing.
The Sonoran Desert. The Sonoran. Brandon, let us not forget your favorite words. Now, before we get.
Well, now before.
Up here in the receiver, in the inside, we have the front trunnion. You want. Dang it. And then back here, we have the rear trunnion. Now, you may. Frick. And then these two right here, and this. Those are called rivets. Now you may notice that this happens to be very stable footage right now. I spoiled this prize. Sorry, hold on. It's either, but and I don't drink these either. Heck,